We're now going to take a look at a sequence in which, when we try to calculate the common difference or the first difference, we don't have a common difference, but we discover when we calculate the second difference that we do have a common difference. And this will allow us to take that sequence and build a model for a quadratic formula. Looking for the right word, a quadratic model for the sequence. So let's illustrate what we're talking about. And so here is our sequence. We got negative 14, negative 8, 0, 10, 22, 36, and then it continues on out to infinity, let's say. Well, let's first set out to think about finding the common difference. So I start with negative 8 minus negative 14, and that's 6. And then the difference between 0 and negative 8, 0 minus negative 8 is 8. And then from 10 to 0 is 10. And from 22 to 10 is 12. And from 36 to 22 is 14. And so obviously we don't have a common difference there. It's 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. But what about our second difference? Can we get to a second difference? Well, the difference between 8 and 6 is 2. The difference between 10 and 8 is 2. The difference between 12 and 10 is 2. And the difference between 14 and 12 is 2. And then we're going to build a system of equations such as I'm getting ready to show you, and then we're going to solve for that system of equations that we can then put into a quadratic model. Well, let's see. We're going to build it like this. We're going to say that A times 1 squared plus B times 1 plus C, and we're going to set that equal to the first number of the sequence, negative 14. And then our second equation, we're going to say A times 2 squared plus B times 2 plus C is equal to the second number in the sequence, negative 8. And then lastly, since we got 3 variables, we're going to set up 3 equations, 3 variables, 3 equations, A, B, C being our variables. We're going to have A times 3 squared plus B times 3 plus C equals third number in the sequence, 0. And we're going to build a matrix and then use reduced row echelon form. From there, we can build a model of a quadratic model for this sequence. Hold on, we're coming there. Well, you can see over on the left, I went ahead and put our 3 equations, 3 variables. A times 1 squared plus B times 1 plus C equals negative 14. A times 2 squared plus B times 2 plus 1C equals negative 8. And A times 3 squared plus B times 3 plus C equals 0, where we're trying to build a quadratic model for a sequence where we have a common second difference. Our first differences were 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14 in the 6 numbers that we know from the sequence. But our second difference was a common difference of 2. Now, as you see here on the calculator, I've already went ahead and I built the matrix, a 3x4 matrix, substituting in, let's see, 1 squared is 1, so that'd be 1A times B times 1, 1, plus 1C equals negative 14. And then in my second equation, it was a times 2 squared, or 4, you're looking at the second row, plus b times 2 plus 1c equals negative 8. And then in my third row, corresponding to my third equation, which was a times 3 squared, or 9, plus b times 3 plus 1c equals 0. And from there, we're going to use reduced row echelon form, and then we're going to build that model for the quadratic model for this sequence. So let's see, I'm going to hit second matrix. I'm going to math. I'm going to scroll down till I get to reduced row echelon form for this matrix A, which is B. I'm going to choose that. And then we're going to put in, I didn't want to do that. Let's clear that. I wanted to quit that matrix. Sorry about that. Let's quit that matrix. Then go second matrix. I do that all the time. That's very aggravating. All right, we're going to go to alpha B, or unless I just scroll down. Reduced row echelon form. Now I got it in the math screen. I'm going to put in matrix A. Close the parentheses. Hit enter. And there's my reduced row echelon form. And as I build that, my first row gives me just 1n squared. My second row, I'm going to use that 3 for plus 3n. And then my third row, I'm using the negative 18. And my quadratic model is an, as you see there on the left at the bottom, equals n squared plus 3n minus 18. Now let's think about it. Our first number in that sequence was negative 14. So if I substitute 1 for n, a1, let's say, a1 equals 1 squared plus 3 times n, well, let's see, 3 times n is 3, plus 1, 4, minus 18. Well, that gives me negative 14, and that was my first number in the sequence. My second number in the sequence was negative 8. So a2, I put in 2 squared, that's 4, plus 3 times n, 3 times 2, that's 6. Well, 4 and 6 is 10, minus 18 is negative 8. All right, we're clipping right along. Let's do a3 just for fun. That'd be 3 squared, that's 9. Plus 3 times 3, that's 9. 9 plus 9 is 18, minus 18 is 0. Let's go to the fourth number in that sequence, which was 10. Let's see, 4 squared is 16. Plus 3 times 4 is 12. 16 and 12 is 28, minus 18 is positive 10. And we have built a quadratic model for the sequence negative 14, 8, 0, 10, 22, 36, ...